to you folks and take it away.
Good morning, everyone, again. We're here to do our weekly recycling minute. And last 2 weeks ago, we talked about recycling or not recycling plastic takeout dishes. They're trash and they're plastic, so keep that word in mind, just like in the Graduate, plastic. You know, I don't know if everybody remembers that movie.
Well, I sure do.
Yeah. And then last week we talked about shredded paper not being recyclable. It has to go in the trash also. But this morning we're going to talk about plastic bags, plastic film, and any other sort of wrapping that goes around whatever product you buy. And to give you an example, this is just a flat that you get soda cans or bottles in. Together, what do you think together this is?
Trash.
Right.
Yay,
This is
trash.
Yeah, give that lady a cheroot.
It's separated and it's recycled.
This is recycling, separated. This goes in the trash. Not exactly directly to the trash because,
Wait, let's show the pictures about why.
okay,
Can we see picture number one, please? How many of you were here?
right here.
How many of you were here in May of 2019? Some of you, about half of you maybe. Those of you who were not here certainly weren't treated to this lovely picture. What you can't tell, what you may not realize is this is a worker at, it happened to be Clearwater, but it could have been Waste Management just as well. And what he's doing is in there by hand, cutting the plastic bags out of the recycling rollers that they're trying to process and sort recyclable items. They gum up the works in the worst possible way. They have to stop the line and they have to dig them out. Can we see the next one, please? That. Look at that. I hope that's enough to convince you that this is garbage, not recycling.
Well, we do have what we call bags next to the recycling center. This one is full. They're both in the north and the south. And when you bring your recycling down, you can bring your plastic, put it in here. This is a bag full of recyclables. Don't throw it in the recycle bin with it wrapped in plastic. Turn it over, empty it out, then throw the bag in the bag. And when you saw those pictures, you can imagine it's so serious they've got to shut down the machinery and basically those big huge teeth, they got to floss those big teeth and clean out the plastic bags. That shuts down the whole line, and that means that everyone on the line from beginning to end has to stop. That's a work stoppage. Can you imagine what that costs the city and or Waste Management, depending? So they went to the extra cost of installing cameras on the waste recycling trucks, so they could monitor it and therefore find the people that are the most, I guess, negligent in getting plastic into the mixed recycling. And then they got to have someone to review, and this sounds like a great job, to review those videos to find out who, what, when, and where the problem comes for, and they will find the offenders. And I guess we have been fined. So we're really adamant. Read the signs above the recycling barrels, the green and yellow barrels. Read the signs, big letters, it says no glass, no plastic, but plastic jars, bottles, water bottles, milk jugs, those are recyclable. We're only talking about the film because it plugs up the machinery, as you saw on the picture. Have I missed anything?
Mighty quiet in here. Okay, so what we all need to do is rededicate ourselves to doing this correctly. We can't afford not to. These fines are not trivial, and they know if we mess up. So please encourage your neighbors and encourage yourself to do it correctly. These are the final. I'll let Chris summarize.
There's a question over here.
Robin, that battery container says lithium batteries, but the regular batteries are going in. Is that what was the intent of that? Only lithium?
Rechargeable batteries only was the
Only
intent.
rechargeable.
We may pull that out of there because nobody seems to get it.
They're the only ones that are recyclable. The other ones are trash.
Well, they all go together.
I know.
Oh, okay.
One final thing too, there is a little glimmer for those that can make it to Publix or Sprouts or Winn-Dixie. They do have a container for plastic bags that you can take there if you go shopping. So if you're a real recyclopath, like Robin and I are, you can take those bags when you take it on the bus or when you drive over. Just don't be like me and leave the bag in the car for 3 weeks before you remember to take it to put it in the little green bins. So that's one little glimmer. They're the only place we know that will take them for recycling.
Thank you.
Yep. Good.
Thank you very much, Chris and Robin. Great presentation. Let's take a look at the COVID numbers, and we're going to step over to the board. So we're looking at the data for the state of Florida. This is off the Florida Department of Health web page, and this is our primary tracking tool. I always start over here on the right-hand side by looking at the new cases by residents per day, and this is the chart on the upper right-hand corner in yellow. And you can see that we started a spike way back there on 11/9, and it has sort of progressively gone up. It's been a little unsteady when you look at it over a week-by-week basis. We've put together, it looks like 3 solid weeks where we've had declines week over week. And so you don't know whether that's a start of a trend or not. You can see that back on 11/16 we had a 4-week cycle where it declined. So we've seen that pattern before. It's a little too early to say with a great deal of certainty whether this is just a valley or whether or not this is actually a trend. And someone once told me, in looking at these charts, you have to think of it like you would breathing. For every inhalation, there is an exhalation. And so you should not expect to see a straight line. What you will see is a system or a series of peaks and valleys. So we'll continue to watch this. Now the chart below it in white is the number of fatalities, and we can see a very clear trend in morbidity. We've seen a significant decline, and it is down to pretty low standards. Let's go to Florida testing. Okay, so we're going to take a look at Florida testing. This is specifically here in Pinellas County. Over here on the left-hand side, you can see that yesterday we tested 4,000 people in our county, a county of more than 1 million people, and negative 3,864 of them were negative. That means our positivity rate yesterday was 7.05. It's a little higher than what we've seen over, or what we saw last week, so there has been a slight increase. We were up at the 6.93 last week, as I recall, so there's a little bit of a climb, but it's not drastic. If you go over, Don, and hover over the green line right above 11.6, 11.6, right above 11.6 right there, you can see we tested there. We had about 19,000, and then on 11.14 go to 11/14, we did about 27,000, and then on 11/22, we've gotten to about 31,000, and it looks like we're still off a little bit this week, but that's because it may not be a full week. But what you are seeing gradually is an increase in testing. Here in Pinellas County, we're testing more people every single week. And what do you think the results of that might be? What might you expect? More positives. Yeah. So we sure enough, we're beginning to see that. The positivity rate of new cases by week, that's the red bar graph, the red line graph at the bottom. 10/31 was our spike. It started to decline. It was very gradual. And then right now it's popped up just a tiny hair from the high 6s to the low 7s. So stable and tends to be trending in the right direction, but we'll have to see next week whether that slight upward tick is a trend or a anomaly, and we'll evaluate that next week. All right, let's go to cases by county. So here's Pinellas County. Gives you some demographic data. You can look at it by race, ethnicity. You can look at it by gender. The average age for a COVID resident here in Pinellas County is 43, and the top bar graph with all the color shows you at what age bracket the majority of the cases are occurring. You can see the vast majority occur between 25 and 34. The reason for that is that age group is more mobile. They're out and about more. They're the ones who are going to restaurants and bars and social occasions, and so predictably their positivity rate would be higher. If you go over to that orange over on the right-hand side, that's 85 and above. It's about the same risk as if you were in the age group of 5 to 14. So it continues to be, and there's some reasons for that as well. So the seniors tend to be more aware, more conscious of this, and they tend to have a better appreciation for the restrictions and what protections that will offer you. And then, of course, the perspective of a young teenager is they will live forever, and they're made of Teflon. So, but interesting comparison to take a look at that by age bracket. All right, let's go over to health metrics. Here are the 4 tracking lines. We look at them every single week. This helps us diagnose what's going on. The first one in brown, upper left-hand corner, is emergency room visits with flu-like symptoms. And you saw it spiked for a couple of weeks. It's now started to decline. The purple one is the emergency room visits with COVID-like illnesses. Same thing, you saw the spike that started to rise at the end of October, and it sort of escalated for a 2-week period, and then this is our 4th consecutive week with a decline. Now this is in Pinellas County. We could broaden it out and look at the state, and we could look at the United States, and that would not be true. But in Pinellas County, we're very fortunate that our numbers are declining, and I think a 4-week trend line is significant. Pinellas County, along with Pasco County, continues to be one of the best counties in all of Florida in terms of our number of new cases and our positivity rates. So that's good news, and we ought to celebrate it. Upper right-hand corner is documented new cases. We see that continue to climb. We were up at about 1,100. It looks like we're now at about 1,700. So it is increasing in Pinellas County. About Looks like maybe 500 new cases, and that's on a weekly basis. And then the percentage of positive for testing, this is the curative testing. You can see that we had that 4-week positive decline, and then this week it ticked up. We saw that on the other graph. It rose from the high 6s to the low 7s. So we've seen a little bit of an uptick there. Let's go to USA and World. And so just sort of scary. Don, if you go to that plus and minus sign and hit down the negative sign, it'll reduce that a little bit. All right, that's good. We don't really, it's, try, can you roll up? Probably not on this one. All right, I can talk off this chart. So red spots are the hot spots. And Don, if you go up and just put the cursor right over one of the red spots, like Washington, see if it'll populate. No, it won't. Okay. So there we go. Good. I don't know. Maybe you have to be right on it. So it will give you some data on some of the hot spots. Maybe that's not as helpful as I thought. So here's what you're really looking for in this. Hit that X out so that we can see the map again. This X out on the showing one, right down here in the box, small box. Yeah.
Sorry, what do you want, Don?
Right here, just hit this small X. Clean all this up when we do this. All right, and now hit the negative. All right, so let's take a look at what's happening right here at Regency Oaks. I first will give you just sort of the daily updates. In Florida yesterday, there were 7,000 new cases. We had 100 fatalities. In Pinellas County, of that 7,000, Pinellas County represented about 300. So here in Pinellas County, we only went up 300 cases in a population of more than 1 million. And our fatalities from COVID yesterday in Pinellas County were 9. So those are really, really good numbers. If you look at what's happening in the United States, it was 14,958,000, and it went up over 200,000 new cases in the United States. And so one of the things that we should talk about is how important it is as we approach the holidays and you're planning to have families that you've not seen for many months visit. We need to be real sensitive of, quite frankly, where family members are coming. And if you have family members coming from one of these red dot circle areas where there are significant outbreaks, it's probably not a good idea for you to see them or for them to see you. And so I want you to be cautious and think about your travel plans or the travel plans of your families as we get ready to go into the holiday season. Because we know that 200,000 cases, yes, they're not happening here in Pinellas County. We sort of live in this very secure bubble, and we're fortunate to have those good numbers, but not everybody else in Florida and the rest of the nation are fortunate enough to have these low numbers. And remember last week we had looked at the number of people who come to Florida and test positive as opposed to the number of Floridians who test positive, and it was almost 50% of the numbers were related to out-of-state travelers. And so out-of-state travelers are very, very dangerous. They come from high positivity rate areas. They travel through crowded airports. They are considered super spreaders because they get in confined spaces, airplanes, for periods of longer than 15 minutes with a circulated air that everyone shares. It's not individual apartments, and so we just need to think about that as we move into the holiday season and start to make our plans. Here specifically at Regency Oaks, we have 10 people in the IL that are under quarantine, 12 in skilled nursing, and 24 in assisted living. The 24 in assisted living came from the staff exposure a couple of weeks ago, and they are scheduled to come off of quarantine on this Friday, and that number should return to 0. In skilled nursing and independent living, the majority of those are related to either new move-ins who might be on a loose quarantine or hospitalizations where someone has returned from a hospital and are currently under quarantine. In terms of our staff, we have 3 residents who are on quarantine and 0 skilled nursing staff members and 1 AL staff member. So we've got some people on quarantine that we're monitoring, but if we look at why those people might be being monitored or being put on quarantine, we look at the number of individuals with either flu-like symptoms or COVID-like symptoms, and currently there is just 1 staff member in the IL that we're monitoring for flu or COVID-like symptoms, and there are no residents across the campus that we're monitoring. So our numbers continue to hold and be solid. Our resident count for positive COVID from February 18th forward, where we've now had 15 residents across our entire campus who have contracted COVID. The majority of them, yes, are assisted living or skilled nursing. We did have 2 new residents. It was a couple who had COVID, tested positive for COVID in the south building this week. We do not believe that that is going to pose a risk for residents anywhere on campus. At this point, our best thinking, after doing exhaustive contact tracing with the Department of Health, our best bet is that they were asymptomatic. They probably had it for some period of time, and you may or may not know that once you have COVID and you are tested after the fact, it can still show in your system for 6 months, maybe longer. And so 6 months after recovering from COVID, you're still going to test positive because of the antigens that are in your body. And so the antigens are the good thing. That's what's giving you the immunity. But because of the antigens, you still will continue to test positive. So the Department of Health guidelines on that is as long, if you're asymptomatic, it's not an issue. If you had symptoms and you've gone 10 days without having a fever and taking aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen to reduce the fever, then you're safe to be amongst others. So we continue to monitor that. We don't think that was a risk for any of our other residents, and we will keep you up to date and always be transparent with you as we discover new information. Okay, I got some exciting news. Exciting news. Okay, this is a note, and it says, "Good morning, Brant. Well, hallelujah. The bus is finished and it is on its way. You can expect delivery the week of the 13th. That's next week. Hopefully this will be a Merry Christmas for you and the residents who are probably not believing that a bus is ever coming." So they got that right on a whole bunch of different counts, but The new bus is in transit. It's being driven down here. He said Sunday, but I don't know if that's true. Now maybe he may leave the factory on Saturday and drive overnight. I have no idea, but certainly if we say next week we'll be safe. So new bus is coming. The couple of things I wanted to update you on that you may have noticed: fifth floor laundry room in the south building is under repairs. We reopened it a couple of weeks ago, but left some of the area exposed. We've been trying to track down a roof leak. The roofer has been out here 4 times. He has not been able to find a leak. And so we believe that if it's not the roof, it has to be something else. And so it's going to be shut down as we open up the walls to see if we can find the leak. And if we're not able to, we're thinking it must be, if it's not the roof, it must be plumbing. So we're going to see if we can find the leak. If we are not able to identify the leak, we're going to leave those walls open. We will reopen the laundry room so that you can go in there, but we've got to figure out the source of this water intrusion, and the next step is to open up a wall and see if we can identify where it's coming from.
Fran, excuse me, can you tell me what wing and floor that is in the south?
Well, it's the
laundry room.
The laundry room. It's 5th floor, and it's
near the elevator.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not in a hallway. It's a central area, right across from the
Right off the
elevator.
elevators.
Oh, okay, that's right, they don't have the laundry rooms in the individual.
Right.
rooms. Okay.
But the main concern in there, when they do have it, there is mold all in the wall, you can see it. The mold is growing like crazy.
Yeah. So, yes, and so absolutely right. And so when you have water intrusion, you also have to deal with mildew, and we're going to have to deal with that. But the very first step is you got to find the source. And so we'll keep you safe, but as we dig in there to try to figure out what's going on, and I just wanted to update you on that. The second thing is the pool came in yesterday, and the city shut down the pool. And the violations are listed right there on the pool for anyone interested in knowing what it is. But they came in and said that the safety loop that you can use to remove or help take someone who might be struggling in the pool was not mounted. It was mounted on the wall. They somehow missed it. They said the ladders were not secure. The ladders have never been secure. They are a different type. They are weight activated, meaning that the ladders are loose until you stand on them, and then they hug against the sideline. And then they said the pool signs were not properly posted, and the pool signs were posted in the pool room. They evidently want them posted in the front. So I don't know. We think maybe it was a brand new inspector. The pool's been that way for 30 years. We believe we're in compliance. So we've challenged that. We're trying to get them back out here today to take another look at it and try to get that lifted. So those are my 2 updates there. Vaccine clinic is going on today until noon, and if you haven't gotten your flu shot or your shingle shot, you can do so today. That is over in the Wellness Center from 9 to noon.
The flu is this morning, the shingles is this afternoon. We have a 1:15 shingles, it's from 1 to 3.
Okay.
No,
So,
you get the first shingle shot is this morning, because I've already had mine this morning.
okay.
The first shingle shot is this morning, they're doing that again.
Okay. So,
Second single shot is this afternoon.
okay. So if you need a flu shot, it's this morning. Shingle shot number 1 is this morning. Shingle shot number 2 is this afternoon, 1 to 3. All right. I got good information out there. And Tiffany, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy holidays. We can finally say that and wear sweaters and be cute. I wanted to update you that, not unfortunately, but Pastor Chuck, he will be taking over his own church starting December 20th. So the next 2 Sundays, he will be acclimating our new pastor. His name is Jim Roy. So if you would like to come down and meet him, we will also include his bio in the Oaks this week. So please, I hope we can welcome him to Regency Oaks. I'm going to give you a little information on him. Pastor Jim is in his 60s. He's a proud father of 3 and 5 great-grandchildren, none of whom who live in Florida. He graduated from Lee College and has been an ordained pastor since 1986. He has pastored at Church of God and other independent churches for 34 years. So we're happy to welcome him as Pastor Chuck transitions into his own church. Please feel free to stop by on the 20th to welcome Pastor Jim Roy and also to say goodbye to Pastor Chuck. This Thursday at 2 p.m. in Town Hall, we have Joy. She does our Hanukkah stories. Hanukkah does start on Thursday at sundown. So we wanted to make sure to celebrate Hanukkah as well at Regency Oaks. So please come by and welcome her and listen to all of the Hanukkah stories. Next Thursday, we have our holiday RO experience. Hopefully it's still a little bit chilly so it can feel festive. We will have all of our booths in the Town Hall, as we always do. The food will be picked up in the tavern, and seating will be outside. So we're looking forward to the holiday spirit. We're all decorated. And if you need anything, please feel free to always call myself or Ginger. This week I will be in transportation most of the day. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes what we had to share with you this morning, and we're going to open it up for any questions you might have. And Don, I think you have one of our mics. Chris, you want to take the other? Would you help us, sir? I didn't even see you, sorry. All right, we got a question in the back.
Rand, when you checked out the pool, did you also check out the locker room?
We did, and they're evaluating that. They're going to call Airstrom, which is our purveyor, and have them come out and take a look at it.
Okay.
Would you please update us on the Wi-Fi system, the new Wi-Fi system, where it stands?
So the new Wi-Fi system is the north building. The installation is complete, and it is also complete over at the skilled nursing. South building has not yet started. Last Thursday and Friday, they turned on the new Wi-Fi system. You should be able to pick it up on your devices. It's currently not operating, but you should be able to pick it up. And so we had some issues with stability last week. You may have noticed it impacted our TV system, most of the Wi-Fi throughout the entire campus. It was sort of spotty. It was coming and going. And so they've stabilized it, and they are working on activating the system. So signals in the building, wiring is run, repeaters are hung, and they are getting ready to activate the system so that we'll be able to start testing it. And then the south building, they may get started before Christmas, but they aren't real committed to that yet. I suspect that what will happen is we'll get a week to 10 days out of them, and then they probably will break for the holiday period.
Is it free Wi-Fi for everyone then?
Well, yes and no. And
Repeat the question.
So here's the way the Wi-Fi works. Right now, we are using 1/1000th of its capability, and so what that means is the community will be able to utilize Wi-Fi across the campus for all of our devices, whether it's TELS, our electronic work order system, an electronic transportation system, the POS system, and so we're going to beta test that to make sure everything works. You may be able to get into this Wi-Fi. It's not necessarily locked down. I don't know if it's password protected, but the resident portion of this will not come until we negotiate a contract with a carrier. And so that means we have a signal to run across our Wi-Fi system for streaming. I mean, that's the whole point of doing this. So at some point, it's going to be available to residents. It's going to be a paid service. Just as you are paying Bright House, instead of paying, the way we're envisioning it is we will become the provider and you will use the Regency Oaks Wi-Fi instead of Spectrum or some other provider. I will buy it in bulk, I will turn around and sell it to you, and we believe that this is a good deal for residents because you're going to get a higher quality, better signal strength, a faster Wi-Fi, and you're going to get it at a better price. And so we don't see a reason why that wouldn't be attractive to our residents, but we will try to provide those residents who just don't believe that the opportunity to stay with the existing provider. But we are still several months away from having that available to residents. The South Building will not finish up, the installation in the South Building will not finish up until end of January, probably 1st of February. And then the beta testing will go on for 30 to 60 days. So I'm thinking probably the start of the second quarter before it will be available to residents.
Last week you talked, it was in about the fifth assessment for the recyclables, which resulted in a $1,500 fine. Would you explain who pays for the recyclables? Do we pay them to take them away, or do they pay us for getting them?
So here's the way recycling works. Ever since we got into a sort of a tough with China, China doesn't want our stuff anymore. And so nobody's getting paid for recyclables. We are committed to recycling because it's the right thing to do, and we're interested in preserving our planet, and we want to do our part. And so that's the argument for recycling. It doesn't cost residents anything to recycle. The fines, we need to figure out how to avoid the fines because residents ultimately end up paying the fines. And so, every source of income Regency Oaks has is from you, and every expenditure we make is from cash provided from you. And so collectively, it is important for all of us to figure out how to do this efficiently and effectively because ultimately you pay for it.
I have a question about visitors or prospective clients coming here to stay. If they arrive on a weekend, who is checking to make sure that their temperature is taken? Are they in quarantine? Can they fly in here on a Friday night and go to the dining room and eat?
So who are we talking about? Because the answer is different upon which of the 8 categories that we've identified.
From my understanding, and I'm not sure this is correct, this is just something I heard, is that someone flew here from out of state and is staying in a guest suite and went to an evening dinner and didn't seem to know or say or was asked, are you COVID-free? Yes. You can come to the dining room, you can talk to people. So, does marketing do stuff over the phone with them before they get here, if they're like a weekend guest or a weekend move-in even?
You sure it wasn't a family?
My understanding, this was a single man.
Anything is possible, but typically our marketing guests go into a try it, you like it suite as opposed to a guest room. And most of our guest rooms are dedicated to family members. And so there are different rules based upon why you're here, where you came from, who you are you a family, a friend, a prospect, and so there's no simple answer for that.
Okay, so you do have protocols in place though?
Yes.
And a resident meeting up with someone who says, oh, I just flew in and maybe I'm gonna buy something here and...
So let me give you some general guidelines. So if you're a family member, you should not be staying overnight in anywhere on this campus. If you're a family member, you should not be staying overnight without having talked to Leslie and gotten an exception for compassionate care. Those are the only overnight guests that we are allowing. Second statement is our marketing prospects who are ready to deposit can do a trial stay. And if you are on a trial stay, we're going to monitor your temperature 5 days prior to your arrival, and we are going to have the same assurances in terms of screening that we would a resident, in that we have a consistent temperature log, we've screened you, and we feel comfortable admitting you. We will allow an overnight stay in a Try It You Like It suite and give you access to the dining room, but there are some restrictions on that as well. And so there are protocols, and I know it gets really confusing because there are 8 different categories, and it can be impacted by who you are, why you're here, and how long you intend to stay. A lot of stuff goes into it.
Brett, what's your take on the article that appeared in Sunday's paper?
So, it's the article, for those of you who did not see it, Freedom Square, our sister community down in Seminole, was in the newspaper. They had 32 fatalities very early on in this process. COVID got into the building, and it had a really significant and tragic impact. So my first thought is, oh my gosh, there are not words to express what a significant tragedy that was, and there were lives lost, families, residents, staff member. The second thing that comes to my mind is that it's a cautionary tale. It's so important that we monitor those 5-6 steps that I talk about every week in order to keep us safe. We have the protocols in place. We have the practices that we need to make sure that we control the spread and prevent the intrusion of COVID into the community. Now we just need to be diligent, and it's you, it's me, it's all the staff, it's our families, it's our visitors, and it's so important to follow the protocols because we know what the results can be if there is just a momentary lapse.
Do you see it affecting Health Peak's expansion into assisted living, memory care?
So the question is, do I see what happened at Freedom Square impacting Health Peak's expansion plans as they move forward in the senior housing? And it's interesting, just 30-45 days ago, Health Peak issued a statement on that. And you might have been aware of or noticed that they took the rental portion of their portfolio and eliminated it. They spun it off. And their commitment is we're no longer going to pursue senior housing rental models, the small freestanding assisted living. Our interest is in CCRCs that are more stable. They have better staffing ratios, and there's a higher level of management experience in dealing with these kind of issues. And so as they move forward, they've pretty much said that we're only going to invest in the CCRC model because that's the model we believe is safest and will have the best returns. So yeah, I think that has impacted their go forward thinking.
Which means they're not doing it?
It means that I think they absolutely will continue to look for opportunities for CCRCs. But if you had a portfolio of 10 or a handful of small assisted livings and tried to get them to buy it, they probably would tell you no. They're always going to be interested in CCRCs. All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate the turnout.